Okay, let's be real. You want her. And I don't blame you, cause honestly same. But you might want to think twice about passing up on Huohuo. If you're still looking for a sustained character and you skip Luocha or Fushuan, then you're in luck. Huohuo's here to make all your savings disappear. She's one of the best buffers for many reaction-based teams. Huohuo's a 5-star wind abundance character and is honestly kind of insane. On top of providing massive heals and the best cleanses in the game, she also gives your entire party an attack buff and energy. She's sort of like a mini Luocha and Tingyan put together, and that sounds pretty good to me. On the surface, Huohuo appears fairly straightforward to build and play, but there's actually a bit of nuance to her kit. Luckily for you, I've spent a lot of time playtesting her, so buckle up and let's dive right into how we can use her optimally. Huohuo's skill can be casted on a target ally to cleanse 1 debuff and heal them for a large amount. Allies adjacent to the target will heal a good amount as well, but no cleanse. The actual heal is quite strong and has significantly higher scaling than even Natasha or Bailu's ults. Additionally, after using her skill, Huohuo gains Divine Provision for 2 turns, and this only starts counting down at the start of her turn. This means you can maintain 100% uptime by using a skill basic rotation. While Huohuo possesses Divine Provision, allies receive a heal at the start of their turns or when they use an ult. Whenever this healing occurs, allies with 50% or less HP will also be healed for the same amount. Additionally, Divine Provision will also remove a debuff from each ally that received its healing. There's no limit to how many times Divine Provision can provide healing, but there's a 6 trigger limit for the debuff removal. This trigger limit can be refreshed whenever she uses her skill again. It's important to note that her A6 trace is pretty nuts. She gets 1 energy each time the healing from her talent is triggered. We'll get more into this later when we talk about her energy, but you definitely want to unlock this as soon as possible. Huohuo's ultimate is what really brings the heat. It's got a whopping 140 energy cost, though that's completely fair given how loaded it is. Upon use, Huohuo regenerates energy for other allies and gives them an attack percent increase for 2 turns. At trace level 10, the amount of energy restored is equal to 20% of the restored character's max energy. For example, 120 cost ults will restore 24, 140 cost ults will restore 28, and so on. Keep in mind that this type of energy restore is not affected by a character's energy regen rate. It's a flat amount just like Tingyan's ult. The attack percent increase at this level would be 40%. The goal with Huohuo is to maintain 100% uptime on Divine Provision, while also getting her ult back as soon as possible. If we look at this chart here, there are 2 recommended rotations that lead to getting her ult after 4 actions. Do note that this only includes 16 Ascension 6 Strace procs, wow that is a tongue twister, per rotation. In playtesting, I found this number to be a lot higher, which means you're going to be regenerating more energy. This also doesn't assume Huohuo gets hit a single time, which is highly unlikely or even impossible in certain fights. So realistically, as long as you have an energy regen rope, you'll be guaranteed to get a 4-turn rotation. This means you don't need to use an energy increasing light cone, and it'll just be a question of how skill point positive you want to be. My recommendation will be to use a skill, then 2 basics consecutively. After that, you'll want to use a skill to refresh your Divine Provision's duration, and then continue with 2 basics and so on. Of course, you may need to skill more frequently to keep your team alive, but at least you gain a lot from doing so, and you're not just throwing away SP. One thing that's also worth noting, at the start of battle, if you haven't taken any damage, you'll want to start her rotation off with a basic and then follow up with a skill once you've actually taken damage. You've already seen some of the light cone energy results, and unfortunately we can't reasonably expect to get a 3-turn ult rotation unless we get hit a lot. That being said, Huohuo is great in that she isn't reliant on any specific one to function, and what we're mainly looking for are light cones that either increase her healing or support capabilities. Let's start with her signature, Night of Fright. At S1, you get 12% energy recharge, but what's really good about this is the additional heal when allies ult and the attack boost. The heal is great because it targets the ally with the lowest percent of their max HP, which is generally going to be the highest priority target. The attack bonus is pretty much just a permanent 12% attack to all allies, though it can take a bit of time to ramp up to its 5 stacks. Now, while the signature is good, Huohuo's got a lot of solid options that are close to or even exceed its value in some situations. The best free-to-play option will be the new event light cone, Hey Over Here, which we get for free at S5. This one synergizes really well with her kit, and you get a lot of HP and healing bonus. At first, it might not seem great since all it offers is additional healing, but it pretty much ensures you're never going down and easily satisfies the minimum healing requirements. Likewise, around the same power level is Bailu's Light Cone. Being a 5-star, it's got more raw stats than the event one, but in reality, you won't notice any major differences in their performance. My recommendation, and what I'll personally be running, is Shared Feeling. It's about time that this light cone got to shine, and it's absolutely perfect for Huohuo. It's got increased healing bonus, which is what she wants, but the crazy thing about it is the team-wide energy restore upon using a skill. Before Huohuo, there hasn't been an abundance character that actually wants to use their skills as part of their rotation, so she's the first one that can actually make good use of it. The energy that Shared Feeling gives is affected by energy regen rate. At S5, this can net you an additional 9 to 10 energy for each character per rotation. If you don't have this, don't worry, Quid Pro Quo is another solid option that you can S5 for free, and honestly not that far behind in terms of value. The only thing you'll have to be careful about is it doesn't provide any bonuses to her healing, and you might run into some situations where you need to cast her skill more to keep the team alive. Lastly, I did want to talk a bit about post-op conversation. It isn't as great on Huohuo as other characters because the outgoing healing only applies to heals on ults. All that's left is the energy recharge, and even at S5 you're not getting an additional breakpoint unless, again, you get really lucky with getting hit often. If you've already got one leveled, then for resource efficiency you can just go ahead and use it, but as soon as possible try to level up the event light cone, Quid Pro Quo, or any of the other options listed as they will be better. Her relics are pretty straightforward, so let me actually show you what I've prepared for her. You want a mix of 2-piece hacker space with 2-piece outgoing healing or even HP. It's fairly interchangeable between the three. As for planar sets, you don't need to run any of the energy sets, you really just want Fleet of the Ageless, which also helps her healing output as well, or Broken Keel. As far as stats go, you want an outgoing healing bonus body, speed boots, HP percent orb, and energy regen rope. You want to fish for as many speed substats as possible, ideally aiming for that 134 speed threshold to get that extra action on cycle 0, but any more can also be good. You don't want to slow Huohuo, otherwise she won't be able to keep up with the rest of your team, and having her fall behind is detrimental for her ult uptime as well. Otherwise, look for HP percent as your first priority after that, then look into getting effect res, especially if she's running Broken Keel, and then other tank stats like defense percent. Huohuo's Eidolons are no joke, but far from necessary. Her E1 increases the duration of Divine Provision by 1 turn, which will let you do a skill into triple basic rotation, as well as potentially getting more energy through her A6. Additionally, you can also get a permanent 12% speed bonus for your team, since Divine Provision will just never wear off. This is a solid Eidolon and a good stopping point if you're looking to pull for them. I'd say this is even more worthwhile to go for than her signature, but that's just me. Her E2 will prevent an ally from being knocked down by a killing blow if she has Divine Provision, and will heal them back up to 50% of their max HP. It'll reduce the duration of sacrifice life by 1 turn, and it can only be triggered twice per battle. What's nice about this is it can also work on herself, but the chances of her going down before her allies is pretty unlikely. Overall, it's a pretty fun Eidolon, but doesn't provide much in terms of output. E4 pretty much just makes it so the lower an ally's HP is, the more healing they receive. I never really had trouble with her sustain, but if you have this, you'll never need to worry about it again. E6 is quite crazy, and for those of you with the luxury, congrats. 50% extra damage dealt for 2 turns when healing a target ally, and it can be easily maintained with a 100% uptime. Not much else to say here, it's just insane. Because Huohuo can easily solo sustain a team, given that you're allocating enough skill points for her to use, she can slot in anywhere. That being said, there are definitely synergies that can be explored, and these are the teams that I found had the most success in-game currently. A lot of these do pair Huohuo and Tingyun together, which does make sense since they both battery units. Huohuo fits really nicely in Jingliu teams, and if you combine her with Tingyun, you can actually get very long enhanced state uptime with all the frequent ults, and the team itself plays really nicely. Jingliu is already a skill point friendly character due to her not using any during her enhanced state, so there isn't much of an issue there either. Imbibitor Lune also has a fairly high ult cost, and Huohuo fits here nicely as well. The great thing about Imbibitor Lune getting more ults is that'll make him use less skill points. He'll also be able to ult quite frequently, and more often than not it'll be every second turn or even every turn if he takes down a lot of enemies. Huohuo works great in dot comps too, either Hypercarry Kafka, Double Dot, or even Triple Dot. All these characters have quite impactful ults, and oftentimes Sampo or Guinaifen are not always using their skills, so the extra energy from Huohuo does go a long way. With a team like this though, you do have to be careful with skill point usage, and you can of course use Pella to help alleviate that, but Asta is definitely more valuable in this position. I've got a spicy one for you here, and it's actually Mono Win with Silverwolf. The main advantage of this team, of course, is that against an enemy that's already weak to Quantum, you can abuse Silver Wolf's skill to trivialize element matching. That being said, skill point management is vital, and you might have trouble when you have Bronya in the team as well. Lastly, one team that I found worked really well is Jing Yuan's team. You can almost always get a 10 stack Lightning Lord with this comp, especially if you have him on 141 speed or with Asta. This amount of speed lets him move twice before the Lightning Lord even takes action. Huohuo is a complete character even at E0, and she's got some of the most accessible light cone options as well. She'll have no problem soul sustaining your team in Endgame with healing output levels on par or even exceeding Luocha's. In my opinion, she seems like one of those characters that might not be as appealing right now, but a lot of people might regret skipping her later. She brings a completely unique function to the game, consolidating the sustain and harmony roles, which she also excels in. Her drawback of needing to use skill points I feel will be a bit overblown, as we already know she can comfortably do a skill basic rotation. Still though, her main role is a sustainer, so if you already have that covered, especially with Luocha or Fushuan, then she might not be as worth pulling. If you enjoyed the video, do consider dropping a like and sub, I'd appreciate it a lot. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, best of luck on all your summons, I will see you next time.